Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadada Srivasadi Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Shintai Gaurangarai ki jai, Shri Jagannath Dev Shabhadra ki jai, Shri Radha Krishna Kanaya ki jai. Go Premanandi, all glorious to the assembled devotees, all glorious to Sri Guru Gauranga, all glorious to Sri Prabhupada. Srila Srivas Thakur, appearance day? Appearance day today? Appearance day, I think, isn't it? Srivas Thakur. Pardon? Can you have a calendar? Dharma, can you give me a calendar for Seberang Jai? It might be different than Penang. Or Johor. Vaishnav calendar? Here it comes. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. That's April. Beautiful picture of Krishna with the cows. What's the date today? 22. And according to this, it's tomorrow. Well, we looked it up somewhere. It said today. Where did we look it up? Do you remember? I question this calendar. It's, who is it printed? I don't have. Who's printing this? Do you know who is this Gokul? Gokul Chandra? Gokul, what's Gokul? Goloka. Is this Goloka's? No? Yes? It's Goloka's. So we looked it up yesterday on the, I think it was official site, wasn't it? And it says today. Here, 22nd of March. It says tomorrow. Interesting, huh? Interesting. Very interesting. So what to do? What to do? What to do? It was yesterday in some places. Haribo, good to see you. How are you? Where's Mata? Oh, what are you doing here? What are you doing here?
I came to see you.
You know and told me. You came to give me trouble. Come from the Philippines. From Philippines. Troublemakers. Somebody should look up on their mobile, Iskcon GCal. We go by the GCal, we don't go by local things. Anyway. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Indravali, Mataji, you know how to look up GCal on your mobile? Do you have mobile? Do you have internet? Look on your mobile. You know what GCal is? You know what that is? No. It's the official GBC calendar for everywhere in the world. GCal for Penang. It might be different here to Kuala Lumpur. We'll read a little bit from Prabhupada Lilamrta. We started reading yesterday and we didn't finish. we just spent the whole class reading. It was so interesting. We'll read a little bit. Dear devotees, please take your pews. Subal? Is that Subal? I can't see from here. Subal! I don't know whether there's any point speaking. Maybe nobody can hear a word I'm saying. Who's that? Dharma. Come for class. Don't worry about that. You won't discover anything there. Can you hear anything which I am saying or not? Yes. What did I just say? What did I say? Oh, I guess you heard what I said. Can you hear anything which I'm saying? So we're reading Om Jnana Timirandasya Gnanandjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupagata Mayam Dadati Svapadantikam. On the overnight train ride to Calcutta, Prabhupada had been Bhuvaneshwar, if you know. Did you find it? GCal? Overnight train ride. Bhuvaneshwar is a little south of Calcutta. It's an overnight train journey. You can fly now, but those days we would go by train from Bhuvaneshwar or Jagannath Puri to Calcutta. Nice overnight train. So Prabhupada took the train. Srila Prabhupada could not rest because of drunken men in the next compartment. Throughout the night they were howling and addressing each other. Oh, Dr. Mukherjee. Oh, Mr. Chatterjee. Prabhupada remarked with disgust that these were the names of Bengali Brahmin families, but that now they had become drunkards, like Jagaya Madaya. They were also Brahmins. Jagannath Puri, he said, had become a holy place for thousands of years, but within a few years it would be no longer so. People were using Puri as a seaside resort for recreation. And that's a fact. Of course, there's still an element of holiness about it, a strong element. But the majority of people go there on holiday. And if you've ever been to Jagannath Puri, but it is a nice beach. It's a nice beach. And there's lots of nice hotels, isn't it? People go there for some kind of holiday. And they go to the temple maybe just to beg some blessings. People like Dr. Mukherjee and Mr. Chatterjee, who had no understanding of spiritual life. As the train pulled into Howrah station, Prabhupada sat for a few minutes before disembarking. the vendors' loud cries of chai, chai, chai. You know what they're chanting? Chai, 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 chai. You've been on an Indian train? Have you been on an Indian train or not? So what does that mean? Pardon? Tea, tea, tea. Buy your tea here. Tea, tea. Punctuated the overall din of humanity and machines. This modern society, Prabhupada sighed, it is very painful to even see their faces. They have fallen so much. By seeing their faces, you become polluted. Last night they disturbed so much, and they think they're happy. They're enjoying life. That's Rupmad said. But we have to take the risk to go and preach. Yes, said Prabhupada. If you are engaged in preaching, you are not affected. So when you go on Sankirtan, you know, you're bound to go out preaching. You're bound to see the faces of people in general, whoever they are. You can't close your eyes or just look down. You can a little bit, but you have to confront people if you're preaching. So Prabhupada said, yes, but if you're actually preaching, you're not affected. Because you're trying to give Krishna. You're not trying to absorb their association. Sometimes yogis go to the Himalayas just to avoid seeing the face of the vicious persons. They practice yoga in a sacred and solitary place. Otherwise, what is this? Simply, chai, chai, chai. And cigarette, cigarette, biddy, 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 biddy. Talking nonsense, drinking. Omelette, omelette. You hear the other one, huh? Omelette, 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 omelette. Eggs, eh? Buy your omelettes here, eggs. Eggs, cigarettes, and tea. Very degraded in India, all trains. They practice yoga in a sacred and solitary place. Otherwise, what is this? Chai, chai, and cigarette. Talking nonsense and drinking. Yet the Vedic system is still in India. In the morning, they take bath in the villages. In the cities also, at least those who come from the village. You will find in Bombay, many poor men are taking bath early in the morning. You've seen? They will wash their floor, take bath. With fond thoughts of the pure life in the Vedic village, Srila Prabhupada left the station, passing through the crowds and the noise. He knew Calcutta well, better than any of his disciples. The poverty, chaos, and political slogans did not faze him. It was his hometown, but he had no mundane connections there. He was coming only for a few days to preach. Then on to Mayapur. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. It was very crowded, and still is, of course, because shortly before, well, a few years before, Prabhupada came here to Calcutta. A few years before, there was the war in Bangladesh. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of Hindus had left Bangladesh and arrived in Bengal, in India. There's a war. Just like there's been some turmoil recently, but then it was a full-on war, basically, between India and Pakistan being fought in Bangladesh. And after that, Bangladesh became an independent country, but it became Muslim, of course. It was already Muslim government under Pakistan. So they all came to India to escape the war, and the city of Calcutta was just chock-a-block with whatever you want to call it, refugees, whatever, and it was very, very crowded. It's all settled down now. And Srila Prabhupada was preaching there, and there's all kinds of turmoil going on. So I don't know what to do. I was thinking we'd talk about Srivas Thakur this morning, but is it Srivas Thakur? Anyone find it in their calendar? Nobody found out what the date today? Did you check? Pardon?
In
I can't hear a word. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Yeah, 22nd of March, Saturday, Kuala Lumpur, the appearance day of Srivas Pandit. That's what it says in the official Iskcon calendar. But maybe I don't know where he's got that from. Thank you. So, what to do? Maybe we'll wait then till tomorrow, since more devotees will probably come tomorrow. So today we'll read from Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Do you know where we're reading from, Subal? Pardon? 50. Oh, I opened the book on 44, not far off. Here, there's a marker of it. Good. Okay, we're reading from the chapter, Paranjan becomes a woman in his next life. Interesting subject for modern day society. So text number 50 and 50. Text number 50. Chiting Daramaying Chitva Tasyang Patyu Kalevaram Adipya Chanumarani Vilapanti Mano Dade Chiting Darumaying Chitva Tasyam Patyu Kalevaram Adipya Chanumarane Vilapanti Manodade Chiting Darumaying Chitva Tasyang Patyu Kalevaram Adipya Chanumarane Vilapanti Manodade. Chitim, funeral pyre. Funeral pyre. In India, some of you have seen, I don't know, they don't do that in Malaysia anymore, I don't think, but they'll make a certain place, a burning ghat, usually at the bank of a river, holy river. They make a burning ghat. And they have a pile of special kind of wood, which they place the dead body on top. And then they burn the body when it's dead. Funeral pyre. Now in the West they have these, they're called mausoleum. Usually they're in the memorial gardens or something. No, not the mausoleum. It's the cemetery. It's where they burn the body if you're going to have your body burned. And they put the coffin into this, and then burnt to ashes inside a box or something. A high temperature there. But in Vedic society, all human society would be, the body would get burned if they were going to burn the body. Of course, in most parts of the West they don't, they bury. But in most traditional cultures of Asia, at least, they burn the body. They help release the soul. They help release the soul from attachment to the body. People are pretty attached to their body up to the moment they die. So this is one of them, and that's why a lot of times people hang around even after death in ghostly bodies, because they're attached to their body. They don't have a body to act through, but their body's lying there in a grave somewhere. So the soul is so attached, doesn't want to leave. So oftentimes if their karma is such, they remain in a kind of ghostly form until such time they have to move on, of course, the karmic arrangement. Horrible situation. And people remain attached, and all the attachments that are accumulated within that body, of course, are still there too. So to help, it's not the solution, but to help to break that attachment, to see the body burning in ashes, you know, it's part of sojourn, part of the culture to help release the soul. Darumayim, made with wood. Chitva, having piled up. Tasyam, on that. Patyuhu, of the husband. Kalevaram, body. Adipya, after igniting. Cha, also. Anumarane, to die along with him. Vilapanti, lamenting. Manaha, her mind. Dade, fixed. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. She is the wife of King Malayadvaj. It's the king of Vidarbha. And she is known as Vidarbhi. Vidarbhi, the wife of King Vidarbha or King Malayadvaj. And her husband, who was a saintly person, had left his kingdom and gone to the forest with his wife to take vanaprastha. You may have heard of this word, vanaprastha. It means, vana means forest, prastha means literally going or residing in the forest. Panchasordvam vanam vrajet. It's stated at the age of 50, Panchasordvam. Vanam, forest, vrajet, go. One's supposed to go to the forest. Now, not everyone, by the way, but at least the Kshatriyas, the kings, the royal order, they would go to the forest. They would retire around the age of 50, quite young. They don't even start now until they're 75. King Charles, I think, was 75 years old when he became the king. Supposed to be taking sannyas. What to do? Kali Yuga. But this King Malayadvaj, he went to the forest, and why? Even we see in the examples of Lord Kapila Deva, even though his Kardama Muni and Devahuti, they gave birth to Lord Kapila, an expansion of the Lord. As soon as he was born, his Kardama was obviously prepared. Kardama Muni left home for taking vanaprastha. His wife stayed to look after the baby. Now, this is not recommended in this day and age. It is recommended to take vanaprastha, but not that, like that. That's you say very irresponsible, but it wasn't, because many reasons. But from an ordinary point of view, you could say it was irresponsible. It was a transcendental affair, of course. But to show the importance, even though you've got God as your son, what is the most important thing in life? It's not to maintain the family. It's to get free of ever having a family again. The purpose of human life. That's not the ultimate purpose, but that is one preliminary purpose, to give up this attachment, which we all have, to family, to body, to society, to friends. It's not easy. So Vedic society, especially for the leaders, you can't expect majority of people to abide by or to follow this necessarily, but The leaders in society, they had to yad yada charati shreshtas tattadeveta rojana sayat pramana gurute lokas tadanarvartate. They had to show the example. They had to show the example. Whatever they do, common men follow. So at least they'll understand that there's a higher purpose to life, not just to maintain the family, maintain one's position, try to enjoy in this material world, as Prabhupada just described, drunkards, smokers, meat eaters, you name it. That's not the idea, that's not the purpose of human life. Kamasya nendriyapiti labo jiveta yavata. Jivasya tattva jignasnatayasya karma bhi. Human life is meant for spiritual advancement. So the leaders would teach this. It's not meant for sense gratification. You have your sense gratification, but at a certain point of time we've got to turn the tap off. Otherwise we have to take birth again in another womb, and God knows what we'll come out as. It doesn't have to be a human one, usually not. And we're lost again for God knows how long, countless lifetimes, until one gets the chance again to get out of this repeated birth and death, this samsara cycle, this bhava rog. People waste their human life away, entangled. And even, devotees, Ace said, maybe that's your present state of consciousness and you have to go through it. But we see 70, 80-year-old devotees spending all their time looking after their grandchildren now. This is totally, what can we say? Entangling, a mild word, entangling. And that's what's going on in society. Okay, because it's Kali Yuga, so they're devotees, so it's good. Helping a grandchild become, maybe, possible. There's a slight chance they'll become a devotee. Where we see there's not, the chances not always so high as we wish they were. But we should be realizing what our goal is, to become completely detached from this material world and completely attached to Krishna. That's the only purpose of human life. The only real purpose. Everything else is supposed to be a step towards that. We're not ready to make the plunge, but if following the right process, then gradually we get the help of Krishna, the help of Krishna's energies, to work towards that. So this Queen Vaidarbhi, in many ways, she was rightly situated, because her husband was a devotee, and she was totally faithful to her husband. In her previous lifetime, you may have read already, some of you may have been here, as being one of the most profound examples given in the Bhagavatam. And as usual, it's not given by none other than Narada Muni. So we can mention Srivas Thakur because this whole pastime is accounted by Narada Muni. And Narada Muni appears in Gaur Lila as Srivas Thakur, whose appearance date is either today, tomorrow, or both. I don't know which one it is. These things should be checked before calendars are printed, because they do confuse devotees, and neophytes, those who are not very mature, will start to argue about them. And then, we say friends and enemies start to develop over little things like this. So it's a good idea if they're checked before being published to make sure it's not going to create any kind of... Anyway, that's another topic. So Srivas Thakur, we'll talk about him tomorrow, but we'll introduce it today, is Narada Muni appearing in Gaur Lila. He has you can say, in Narada Muni, he's a completely renounced, he's a renunciate, total renunciate. He had no interest whatsoever in becoming involved in family life. But as Srivas Thakur, he had an extensive family. And so, for various reasons, the Lord's devotees appear according to the will of the Lord in various situations. It's not that there's anything wrong with family life if it's completely Krishna conscious. And maybe we'll hear about that tomorrow, if you're with us, about the amazing personality of Srivas Thakur. But today we'll hear a little bit more from Narada Muni. We have this tendency to think, oh, how is that possible? You see, they're not It's not that Narada Muni is just kind of the body, a renounced person or something. He's totally dedicated to Krishna. Whatever he does is what Krishna wants. Some bags are coming in. Who's the bag carrier? Somebody's arriving with bags. Hare Krishna? Who's coming in with bags? Bags are arriving. Is it Singapore bags? It is. Who else has arrived? Here he is. Welcome. Hari Bol. Oh, you both came. Hare Krishna. Good to see you again. Welcome, everybody. Coming up from Singapore. Hare Krishna. And from Philippines, in the valley. You arrived yesterday? Where are you staying? Excuse me? Can somebody loud and clear say? Third story? Oh, you're in a temple. Oh, you're staying here? Oh, good, good. Are you staying here too? Okay, good. Good. Don't waste your money on the hotel. Give it to the deities, okay? The rich people from Singapore, you know that, don't you? They get paid for breathing. So, Narada Muni, whatever the Lord wishes, it's like Lord Krishna, he appears as Chaitanya. He has different moods, different pastimes, but they're the same. Just a different situation, different purposes are the same also, but their circumstances are different. So the Lord's eternal associates also appear with him in all of his various incarnations, if needed, in different forms, maybe not recognized by, say, lay people. But it's the same mood, the same potency, the same spirit of relationship with the Lord, manifested in different forms. They also expand, by the way. It's not like it's the same personality, eternal associate, who manifest in different forms to fulfill different purposes. But the main point is to satisfy the Lord. So we'll hear more, if Krishna allows, later, tomorrow. But Narada Muni is preaching to this king. This king's name is King Prachini Barishat, or Barishat for short. Pious king, completely attached to what's called karma kandya yogyas. It means, the fruitive performance of activities, bona fide according to scriptures, but for material elevation, and also slowly, if done properly, can lead one to the platform of the spiritual platform. But very slow. One becomes very entangled and very attached. And we see sometimes, a little danger sometimes, devotees become a little over-attached to this too. Performing yagyas, that's their, they, almost like that's their occupation or something. I guess someone's got to do it. But we've got to be a little bit careful. We don't become overly attached to the activity rather than the objective behind it. That's the danger. And then the real danger is you start doing it for money. Then that's it, finished. You get dakshin, that's fine. Brahmins, they never ask for money. They don't ask for money. People automatically give. And if they don't give, they don't get any benefit whatsoever, either from learning or from yagyas or whatsoever. In fact, they get the opposite. They become dull, or they lose what they're looking for. They have to give dakshin in Vedic society. Something at least, even if it's just a flower, but something has to be offered, according to one's means. Brahmins don't mind. They're not attached to that. They're rendering a service. It's for the benefit of those who are involved that they give the dakshin. So it works. So this king, he was called Yajaman. Yajaman. Yajaman are those who employ, or not employ in the terms of modern definition, but they engage Brahmins in performing yagyas with the intention of benefiting society from at least a material perspective. It is one duty of the king he's supposed to be the protector of society, so he's supposed to do that, to make sure there's no shortage. Everyone should get what they need to survive and live comfortably. That's the king's duty. So they would do this, yajnas, also of course Lord Vishnu is in the center. They would perform these yajnas for the benefit of all. But this king was going a bit overboard, and he was, unnecessarily going overboard, and he was doing a lot of animal sacrifices, and he was really attached to the results. Sometimes we get very attached to the results, isn't it? We get very attached to what people think of us, or getting recognized. And if I don't get recognized, I'm not doing it anymore. Sometimes we also get attached to the results. Maybe not money, maybe also, hopefully not. But the praise, the name, recognition, so on. And that's another same thing, really. Entangled, attached to the results. So, it may be there, but we have to rise above it. So Narada Muni, seeing his situation, wanted to raise him above this. So he told him an allegory. That means it's kind of not a real thing, but a real thing in terms of comparison to what's going on around us. So he told there's a long pastime of Paranjan. Paranjan means literally the enjoyer within the body. One who thinks they can enjoy inside this body. And that means every one of us. Every living entity, basically. Conditioned living entity. So he described a long description, covers several chapters, of the Paranjan, this king, this is kind of like a king, but searching for happiness within this body, and described this body as like a city with 9 gates. A city with 9 gates. The 9 gates. What are the 9 gates of this city? What are they? Let me put my glasses on and see if anyone gets the idea. What are the 9 gates? Anyone? 2 eyes, okay. 2 holes there in the forehead. Most of them are in the head, aren't they? What else you got? You got two holes here, huh? What else have you got? 2 holes there. They're entrances into the body, aren't they? What else? Oh, that one. That's the big one, isn't it? That's the big one. That does both. It takes in and gives out, doesn't it? That's a major entry into the city, a gateway to the city of this body. This human body is said to be the most important city of all. And in that body, so you have 2 more holes, 2 more gates. What are the other 2 gates? Too embarrassing to say. Okay, we'll let you off. The rectum and the genitals. These 2 holes are there, for they're regarded as a low entry, a lower entry, the basement entry. They're like in the basement. Go through the basement. Not a very nice way to enter in or go out. But that's there. So this body, human body, and it's also got endowed with intelligence, and in this case the intelligence is in the form of a female. He becomes attracted, it's talking about the king, so he's becoming attracted to the female. And then becomes overly attached. Overly attached. And like with everyone else in this material world, gradually, old age, jara. Again, jara is related even to Srivas Thakur indirectly, because jara means, what does jara mean? What is jara? Pardon? Old age. Old age. Old age came in. Step by step, he started to get old. But his attachments didn't go down. And he was starting to suffer because he couldn't enjoy like he used to. And then, slowly, this is all the arrangement. It's arranged by Narada Muni, actually, because Jara had approached him to get married. Jara is born of time, and she was looking for a husband, but she couldn't find anyone who wanted to embrace old age. Who wants a young man? Who wants to marry a 90-year-old lady? You know, can't walk, can't, you know, just wrinkles everywhere. Maybe if he's a billionaire, you might just hope, you know, but maybe. But normally, no. So nobody, she approached Narada Muni, he refused. She cursed him. You will not be able to stay anywhere for more than 3 days. You won't be able to stay anywhere, I curse you. It was a blessing. Narada Muni wasn't worried, he didn't stay anyway. He's always on the move. So, but he gave her a blessing. He sent her off to Bhaya. Death. No, fear. Death. He sent her off to death. And death's brother is known as Prajvara. Oh, Kala is old age. Also Kala. The word used here is Kala. Kala. Old age. Kala Kanya. Old age, born of time. Kala Kanya. I can't remember all the details. His brother was Prajvara, which means all kinds of fevers and sicknesses and so on. So irreligion, adharma. He sent her to adharma, irreligion. And irreligion's brother is all these unwanted things. Adharma married her off to his brother or something. Then illicit sex began and so many things entered in. And anyway, they began to attack the body. They attacked the body in old age, in time, Kala, in time. Kanya is the daughter of time, Jara. So they attacked the body step by step. Diseases came in, days and nights. The Gandharvas, the days and nights came in, 360 male, female, attacking the body, slowly wearing it away. Diseases came in, one by one. The serpent, life airs that protect the body they become slack and weakened. You can't fight against it anymore. As old age takes over, or grows, so to speak, and consequent diseases and all kinds of things come in, weaknesses, and gradually the ability to maintain oneself within that body gets lesser and lesser and lesser, and the soul is fighting to stay in with his soldiers. The life heirs are doing everything they can to avoid having to leave the body. But they're gradually, the life heirs are described like the superintendent, the chief of police of the city, trying to protect from all of the attack of all these other elements, whatever they are, different types of diseases. And then Prajvara comes in, and he's the real blow. He means high fever, terribly high fever comes, and then eventually it's too high, the whole city catches on fire, and the soul is then dragged out by the representatives of death, the Yamarajas. Anyway, he tells his whole story, and because Puranjan was super attached to his wife, he took birth as a woman in his next life. But because he was kind of pious, he got a human form of life. He was partly for the pastime. But this is just an allegory, it's not a real thing. But it's a situation of all conditioned souls, more or less. So he took birth as the... Anyway, as Vaidarbhi. As I say, I get maybe getting a little mixed up with the details here, but he took birth as a woman named Vaidarbhi, and she was very attached to her husband. And consequently, when he died, which is what we're hearing about now, she could not bear his separation. Now, people think this is an awful thing, the sati rites. They think it's awful, like amongst many other things. But no one told her to do this. She decided to do this. This is how human society was. That the wife realized that her perfection of life was to serve her husband. Nothing else. They wouldn't dare even associate with another man in the absence of her husband. They were so chaste. We don't know what that is now. Unfortunately, the women are unprotected. They're allowed to do anything. Go here, do this, do that, work, this thing, that thing, study. All these things, materially speaking, sound, oh, that's very nice. That's very, equal rights and what have you. In Kali Yuga, that's how it goes. What can we say? But in Vedic society, or human society, there was a higher purpose and a structure based upon the system of Varnashram, a system given by God. And thus everyone benefits by following that system. For the women, of course, the husband would have to also play his part. That was the first principle. There's the husband's playing his part. In Veda, even if he's not perfectly playing his part, still the wife, she gains tremendous power and benefit by performing her duty. They were trying to perform the duty of a man or perform the duty of somebody else. She performs her duty. It's not very difficult to understand. But we're so materially oriented and so conditioned by society, it is very difficult to see it otherwise, or see it that way. So anyway, she decided she was going to leave her body because her husband's died. She was serving him to the last breath in the forest. She was totally emaciated because he wasn't eating. She wouldn't eat either. If the husband doesn't eat, it's like Gandharvi. What's her name? The wife of Dhritarashtra. Gandharva? No, what's her name? Dhritarashtra's wife. Huh? Gandharvi. Yeah, Gandharvi. Almost right. She blindfolded herself because her husband was blind. She's known as one of the most chaste ladies in the history of the universe. She's glorified all over the universe. Her husband wasn't a devotee. So she served him faithfully. She was a devotee. And she's now, even now, thousands of years later, she's glorified all over the universe. She's all over the Shastra as a perfect example of a chaste wife. There's other ways of looking at that, but that's the nature. So Vaidarbhi, that's what she's thinking. Give up her body. No point living. I cannot live without my husband. Now there's a very profound purport, which, this is all too much. It's all too good, isn't it? I'll read it. She then prepared a blazing fire with firewood and placed the dead body of her husband upon it. When this was finished, she lamented severely and prepared herself to perish in the fire with her husband. Purport. It is a long-standing tradition of the Vedic system that a faithful wife dies along with her husband. Nobody forces it. It's her choice. This is called sahamarana. In India, this system was prevalent even to the date of the British occupation. At that time, however, a wife who did not wish to die with her husband was sometimes forced to do so by her relatives. Formerly, that was not the case. The wife used to enter the fire voluntarily, no force. The British government stopped this practice, considering it inhumane. However, from the early history of India, we find that when Maharaj Pandu died, he was survived by his two wives, Madri and Kunti. The question was whether both should die or one should live. One should live. Both should die or one should die. After the death of Maharaj Pandu, his wives settled that one should remain and the other should go. Madri would perish with her husband in the fire, and Kunti would remain to take charge of the 5 Pandava children. Even in the latest 1936, we saw a devoted wife voluntarily enter the fire of her husband. This indicates that a devoted wife must be prepared to act in such a way. Similarly, a devoted disciple of the spiritual master would rather die with the spiritual master than fail to execute the spiritual master's mission. As the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes down upon this earth to re-establish the principles of religion, so his representative, the spiritual master, also comes to re-establish religious principles. It is the duty of the disciples to take charge of the mission of the spiritual master and execute it properly. It is the duty of the disciples to take charge of the mission of the spiritual master and execute it properly. Otherwise, the disciples should decide to die along with the spiritual master. In other words, to execute the will of the spiritual master, the disciple should be prepared to lay down his life and abandon all personal considerations. Pretty strong statements, we could say, by Prabhupada. It's not that, physically speaking, this is something which should be followed, you could say, at least in this day and age, by the T, but we should feel like that. You know, we're as good as dead anyway. If we don't follow the mission of the spiritual master, having taken shelter, we're as good as dead. We can be revived. We can be revived at any time, but we're like in a dead condition if we're not. Everyone in this material world is like Prabhupada describes them as, you know, simply dead bodies flapping. Flapping dead bodies. These are souls kind of in there. And you see the fish sometimes when they're out of the water. Huh? You see them in the fish market. They're a little bit of water. They're flapping around trying to survive. Huh? Desperately trying to breathe. Flapping around. Everyone in this world is like a flapping dead body. Doing all those things, but basically a flapping dead body. The soul is barely conscious, just hanging on there. And, you know, sometimes it gets too bad and can't handle it anymore. Either we die or we forcibly die. So it's a little different. So the whole purpose of the Krishna conscious movement is to wake us up, to enter back into the ocean, in the case of a fish out of water, to return to our normal conscious state, the Krishna conscious state. But we're so attached to this dream. When you're in a dream, you can get attached to the dream also, because you forget your normal position. You forget what it's like to be awake. I think that's the reality, you know. So we're all identifying with this uncomfortable situation, this abnormal situation called human life or animal life, whatever body we're in. And we identify with it and think that's the real one. Well, you know, people say, yeah, that's all right, you can have spirituality, but you've got to live in the real world as well. Many times people say that. You've got to live in the real world. You know, they think this is the real world. This is not the real world. This is what is called asat. It's unnatural world. It's temporary. Anything temporary is not natural for the soul. We don't realize that. So, the mission of the spiritual master is to try to help wake up the sleeping souls, Jeev Jago. But when we're still asleep, what can we do? We're still sleeping too. How can a sleeping person wake another sleeping person? Maybe if you snore loud enough. Hey, Prabhu, shut up, I'm trying to sleep. Last night at midnight, some devotees was talking outside my room, having a conversation. What to do? Very kindly woke me up. Krishna has his plans. We see it like that. There's always a reason for this. We don't see them as the reason. There's always a reason why Krishna does that. We shouldn't really be the, you know, the unconscious instrument of these things. Try. But generally a sleeping man cannot wake up another sleeping man. They're both in ignorance. A drowning man can hardly save another drowning man. Is it? You're both drowning. You think you can save another drowning man? A little bit egotistic, I think. Now what can we do unless we, physician, as they say in English, physician, heal thyself. You know that statement? Physician, heal thyself. physician, like medical man, a doctor or a medical man. Heal yourself. You're telling everyone else, but cure yourself first. You go to a doctor and he's like half dead, you don't feel very confident. Coughing and spluttering. Heal yourself. Just like that, we're still attached and we want others to, whatever, do what we say. The behavior, Lord Chaitanya said, religious principles are established by the behavior of a devotee. Not by what they say, or what they vote on and institutionally implement. It's that by their behavior, the leader by behavior, others follow. You don't have to institutionalize things all the time. If the leader's not following, I remember one time when I was in Africa in the 70s, staying there for some time. And the president of Nairobi of Kenya was called President Moi. Now he had some interesting character. He had, he had some good things. But he had a health minister. Health minister was propagating no smoking. That's pretty good. Eh? But he was almost like a chain smoker himself. How can you seriously have faith? You may have some intelligence to realize that the leader has to practically apply what he's saying. Otherwise it doesn't go down, does it? Maybe with some other similarly minded, duplicitous people, but any intelligent person won't buy it, and they won't really take it seriously. So first we have to cure ourselves in one sense. Kali Yuga, we can't necessarily follow all these Vedic directives, or like this one, for instance. First, it's against the law, in one sense. Definitely against the law. Many things are like that. Even polygamy and so on, which were, maybe in some countries, maybe in some religions it's still allowed, but in most places it's not. But it was traditional all over the world. All over the world at one time. Became traditional for the wrong reason, but there were good reasons too. And that's the problem, especially in Kali Yuga, that everything, the tendency is to take advantage of things for the wrong reasons. And then it becomes a real problem. Real problem. That's why Lord Buddha came up, because people were taking advantage of various injunctions in the Vedas where animals could be sacrificed. For low-class persons, they could eat the meat. But it was becoming out of control. People were just misusing the statements for sense enjoyment. Instead of controlling their senses, rather to satisfy their senses. This is the problem. Religion has this challenge, everyone knows. That we use God or use religion just to satisfy our senses, but that's not the idea. It's not the purpose. The purpose is we regulate our senses at least, control our senses, and then gradually purify our senses, purify our minds, until we lose all interest in the material objects. The important thing. So we'll see as this chapter unfolds that there's incredible incidents take place very shortly, explaining what happens next, and how Paranjan, in the body of Vaidarbhi now, actually Prabhupada describes everyone in this world as an enjoyer in the body, not just the male. Females also see themselves in the center as the enjoyer. Everyone does. Every living entity sees themselves in the center and think, I'm the enjoyer. And when we look at a man or a woman, we see them as also a part of fulfilling my desire to enjoy, mentally, physically. As long as we have this desire of seeing others or other things as objects of our enjoyment, we're caught in this world. We're stuck. We won't go back to Godhead. Krishna consciousness means to see only Krishna as the enjoyer, nobody else. As Prabhupada said here, the disciples should be willing to lay down their life for the mission of the spiritual master. When Kadamba was in his last few moments in this world, a couple of years ago he left the world, just almost a mistake. His last words were the mission, above all, the mission. Those were his very last words. He whispered his last words. The mission of the spiritual master. Mission of the spiritual master is not just an external development, numbers, temples, farms, restaurants, books. Institutionally that goes on. But the real mission of the spiritual master is an internal one, the change of heart. All of this is for one reason. Temples have only one purpose, to facilitate the change of heart. They're not to make money, they're not to make followers, they're not to, whatever other external reasons we can see. That's okay, but the real purpose behind it all is the change of heart. From seeing ourselves in the center to seeing Krishna, that's why deity worship Prabhupada emphasized, we're supposed to be putting the deity in the center, not ourselves. We're not cooking for ourselves, we're cooking for the deity. So that's the transformation, which is not easy, but that's the idea, that's Prabhupada's mission. Why we're chanting is not just to, fulfill our vow, well, that's all right. But that's not the real reason, it's the change of heart. When the heart's not changing, then something's wrong. We're doing something wrong. We've got it wrong. There has to be a change of heart. Notice we have to question, not the process, we question our application or our perception of things. And from this point of view, are we willing to let go? Probably not. We may not even know what the mission is. But to speak of sacrifice our life for it. If we really want to go back to God, if we want to take birth again, that's another thing. And for many of us, that may be what will happen. Because we're not willing to fully let go. And Lord Chaitanya's mercy, Prabhupada's mercy, anything can happen. But and from our point of view, we should really be trying to dedicate ourselves. It's like this queen, Darby, she's dedicated herself to her husband. Completely dedicated. Totally dedicated. That is a representative, it's an allegory. It represents the disciple dedication to the spiritual master. It's not a joke. But unfortunately, especially these days, we get carried away with our conditioning and the temptations of the world around us, and the quality of laziness in Kali Yuga, misguided, all these qualities of Kali Yuga overwhelm us, and we are, more often than not, we don't really fulfill the original intentions, to dedicate ourselves to follow strictly our vows and so on. Oftentimes, even we're chanting japa. Some of you are initiated, some of you are getting initiated maybe, or hope to, and we don't really follow it very seriously. We chant, it's just a mechanical thing, get it out of the way by hook or by crook. I mean, I can't say I'm not in a different boat than anyone else sometimes, but we have to at least realize that. Just get it out of the way, done. Because that's, in one sense, is pretty good. But it's not the goal. To understand what the will, a chaste husband understands the mind of her husband, chaste wife rather, understands the mind of her husband. And acts, doesn't need to be told, acts exactly accordingly. So a real serious disciple knows what is to be done and they do it. They know the mission. They know what the mission of the spiritual master is. And they apply themselves. That's service to the spiritual master. It's nice to always ask. But we have to do it. That's service. Prabhupada said he only asked the spiritual master one question. How can I serve you? And the spiritual master said, you preach this message of Lord Chaitanya all over the world in the English language. That was his instruction. And basically that's the only instruction. He got one or two other specific instructions, but that was the general instruction he got from his Guru Maharaj. But Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj gave that instruction to many disciples, but they didn't do it. That was the difference. It wasn't that Prabhupada was the only one. Many of his godbrothers got the same instruction to preach, maybe in different languages, but to go out and preach. So some of them did something. But nobody preached in the English language all over the world besides Prabhupada. Nobody. Their mission is to assist Prabhupada in fulfilling his instruction from his spiritual master to preach. Without preaching, this movement won't go on. It's not just opening temples and, whatever. Preaching has to be there. And preaching does mean, it's not easy, we've got to go out of our comfort zone a little bit. Out of the comfort zone a little bit. If we want to really get, let's say, the flow of mercy from Lord Nityananda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So thank you all very much. We have Rath Yatra today at 5 o'clock, somewhere in Prai, not far away. We can go to Prai and pray. We're going to pray and pray, okay? And the best way, you can also pray and pray and pray and pray, and is to go there and dance and chant with all your hearts, and distribute as many books and prasadam as you can. Everyone can be a part of this. Let's flood Prai with flood Prai with Prabhupada's books in all languages. The festival is the best place to distribute books. And prasadam, of course. More tonight. 5 o'clock, okay? Don't miss out. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Haribol.